Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, I am with one of the, probably one of my favorite bastard of a guitar player, Mr.
Sachi Bonga.
We go way back. We've done many covers and shared many, I don't even know where the fuck I'm going with this.
Keep going.
You can
I
swear.
Like this is going.
You can swear by this in this thing. By the way, I got no sponsors. I got nothing really. So
I was going to swear anyways. That definitely wasn't going to stop me.
We spent many times in my old studio in Cambridge, reminiscing about musician, arguing about guitar playing, drum playing, bass playing, you name it. We probably argued about just everything under the sun, you and I. But yet, I cherish these moments. So thank you for gracing us with your presence today.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Although you are a defector from Alberta. You knew I was going to bring that up tonight.
And just to set the record straight, I am from Cambridge. And even more specifically so, I'm a Prestonian.
You're Prestonian.
Yes.
There you go. So when and why did you start playing there, Mr. Sachi Bonga?
Well, to answer that extremely complex question, you're going to have to go way back to the 1980s when I was a young whippersnapper listening to bands such as Queen, Van Halen, and James Marshall Hendrix, a.k.a. Jimi Hendrix.
And Boy George.
Actually, close. Like, I was a big fan of Wham back in those days.
Okay. Don't mind me. Carry on.
Wake Me Up Before You Go. I'm telling you, that was a hot track back in the day. It was. Not so much. Wake Me Up Before You Go, that was the one. But guitar-wise, yeah, it's going to come down to the ones that really seduced me to the dark side were Brian May, Eddie Van Halen, and Jimi Hendrix. Those were like the main three that made me. I listened to that sound, and that's like it tickled my bones, and I knew that was what I wanted to do.
So, which instrument do you play exactly? So, for the folks that don't know you,
mainly I'm a guitar player. I mean, I own like 24 guitars, and I play the bass as well. And the first instrument I was trained on was piano, although I didn't go very far with that. But I have a rudimentary understanding of piano. And a little bit of drums. Not so much, but a little bit. Anything. Like John Lennon said, you put a tuba in my hands and I'm going to make music.
So my next question to you was, why doesn't McDonald's sell hot dogs, but Mark Dolomite, or Dolasal, answered that darn question so well that I'll probably just go ahead and skip it. And my next question to you then is, at the movie theater, which armrest is yours?
Both of them. If you haven't noticed, I'm a rather substantial individual. So sitting next to me in an airplane or in a movie theater or on a train is going to be rather uncomfortable for everybody other than me because I fill the space. I don't mean to do it, but I'm sorry. I'm big.
You're a nice jerk.
I'm a polite jerk.
There you go. A considerate jerk.
Yes. Considerate.
You've been in a couple bands, more than a few bands actually, but let's just say we picked the last band you were in. How did you guys come up with your band name?
Oh my God, the worst part of any band is coming up with a band name because Led Zeppelin is already taken. I mean, the last band I was in was Black Market News, and you can already make all kinds of assumptions as to how we came up with the name Black Market News.
No comment.
Okay, no comment. But I mean, I remember it was four of us. It was myself, Jeremy Patey, Nilton Santos and Jason Higgins, the madman of the drums. And we had a really good vibe going on. And all we were missing was a name. I mean, places were trying to get us to play already, you know, bars were lining us up, and we didn't have a name going. And the first show we played was at Argyle Arms, and it was totally, we had like 3 days notice, and it was for a St. Patrick's Day party. And it's a traditionally Scottish-owned bar. Sean Eady, owner, proprietor. And he came up to me and said, listen, man, I need a band. My St. Patrick's Day band canceled on us. I need a band. So I was like, okay, we'll do it, but, you know, I don't know any Irish songs, right? And he's like, okay, it doesn't matter. Just play a couple U2 songs and some Van Morrison, and you'll be fine. And we were complete opposite, hard rock / heavy blues band. We weren't playing any fucking U2 or any Van Morrison. But we came up with the name Seamus O'Bonga and the Keg Tappers.
Ooh.
And we ended up rocking this set, and I convinced everybody that I was an Irish man. And for months afterwards, even years afterwards, people were coming up to me saying, Seamus, when are you playing again? You guys fucking rocked it last time. But yeah, Black Market News. I mean, we were sitting around thinking of names, and I think it was Patey who ended up coming up with it. Like we were just pooling words out there and throwing stuff out. And
where do you go, JRoc? I'm still waiting for me to interview him on here, actually, but
he's a reclusive fellow.
I think he's mad at me. Like I stopped sending him flowers and opening doors for him, so he's totally ignoring me on the Facebook world. But that's okay.
Well,
I love you, JRoc.
He's also a busy guy. He's got a whole clan of kids.
He does. He does. So next question for you, sir, is do they have the word dictionary into the dictionary?
I'm going to say absolutely. It's in there.
Okay.
I mean, I think the word twerk is now in the Webster's dictionary. So if fucking
really?
if twerk is in there.
God. Oh my God.
It might not be twerk, but they got some stupid ass fucking pop culture words in there nowadays. So dictionary has to be in some revised edition of the Webster's dictionary. And if it's not, someone needs to lose their fucking job.
Agreed. Do vegetarians eat animal crackers?
Yes. And if we lost our source of meat or food, vegans would be the first people I go for, because everything I eat now is technically vegan. So zombie apocalypse, vegans are the first to go.
I will call you on this rubbish, because you and I went to this great Viet Thai restaurant exactly a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Called Pho Ban Tan.
Mm-hmm. And
what did you order there, sir?
I ordered the 303, which is vermicelli with beef balls and shredded pork and shredded beef.
Boom!
But I said, like, in the eventuality that none of this stuff was readily available, and it's a zombie apocalypse type scenario, I'm going to start, and you got to start eating people to survive. The vegans are going to be the best tasting. Just saying.
Okay.
Like, a meat eater is not going to taste as good as a vegan.
How about this? What was the very first song you learned on the guitar?
That's an easy one. That's going to be Thunderstruck. And it wasn't really the song. It was just more the riff. And I played it completely the wrong way. I tried picking every note, and I didn't realize it was hammer-ons and pull-offs. But, you know, And that was the kind of problem I had growing up. I mean, everything I heard that inspired me sounded so intense and huge, and I always thought it had to be more than it actually was. And I'm pretty sure in learning it, I may have stumbled upon the proper way to play it, but in my head, I would have been like, no, it's too intense, it's too cool of a song, it can't be that easy. So, yeah,
there you go.
Thunderstruck. That was the first riff I ever learned.
Very cool. Is there a time limit on a fortune cookie prediction?
Absolutely not.
No?
No. That's your fortune. That's your cookie. It was meant for you. It will happen to you.
There you go.
Mind you, those are pretty fucking vague statements, and they could kind of apply to absolutely anybody.
Is or was your family musically inclined, sir?
No. My middle sister played piano, and we had a piano in the house, but my mother, my other sister, my grandmother were not musically inclined in any way.
How about this? If vampire cannot see their reflection into a mirror, why is their hair so neat all the frickin' time?
Well, it's a vampire, man. I mean, that's part of being a vampire. You've got those heightened skills.
How do they know their hair's like pristine like that?
Well, they've probably got control of their hair follicles. I mean, you're a vampire. You've been around for, 1,000 years, 800 years. You're going to gain control of them hair follicles. They can probably make it grow or shorten at will. You're a supernatural being here.
Okay. Since bread is square, then why is sandwich meat always round?
Good question. Why is sandwich meat always round? I mean, square isn't really a shape that occurs in nature too often, so I don't know. It must be some kind of a comfort thing.
Can you cry underwater?
Absolutely.
You say that with such conviction. Why don't you enlighten us, sir?
Listen, man, I mean, the number one time you're probably going to cry underwater is when you're spending the last moments of your life. Because you're drowning.
Ooh.
And, there's going to be a flush of emotion. Those tears are going to come. Just because they're diluted by the trillions of liters of water in the ocean doesn't mean that those tears will not be felt. They're coming. You're going to have an evacuation of emotions, and tears will be part of that. So yes, you can cry underwater. If I was drowning, there's probably going to be a little tear coming out, knowing that it's my last moments of life on Earth. The party's over.
How about this?
That was morbid, though.
A little bit, but I know you will redeem yourself or your answer by the next question. But I mean, a very logical and very, very logical answer. What is your fondest musical memory?
Fondest musical memory. See,
other than recording with me like 10 years ago.
Okay. Fondest musical memories. That's it's a tough question because there's so many. And playing music it means a lot to me. But I'm going to say...
But the one that would pop out in your head on your deathbed. Like the highlight of your musical career so far to this day.
This is a really tough question because, I mean, you could go to...
I know you played in front of Steve Vai, so that's got to be up there somewhere.
That was a huge musical experience for me. That was for actually Joe Satriani. I met Steve Vai and watched him play. But I got to actually play for Joe Satriani. He played at Kitchener Auditorium back in 2007, maybe.
When you've been playing guitar for like 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, seriously playing. I mean, I got my first guitar like probably in 1990.
And I don't mean my comment to be condescending, because Bonga playing guitars for 3 years is equals to people I've known that play guitar all of their freaking lives, which would be anywhere from 15 to 20 years. All wrapped up and condensed and zipped into a zip folder into the 3 years that this gentleman here has been playing. So, by any means, that was not a crack at you, Bonga.
Well, I didn't take it that way. I
okay,
mean,
good.
In that 3 years of time, I would have put the same amount of hours probably as a lot of people would have. Yeah. I mean, it was a very concentrated. Intense 3 years. I was very motivated to get there, as they say. But yeah, I mean, playing for Joe Satriani, it was during a meet and greet, and he liked how I was playing, so he got his assistant to get me to wait back after everybody was gone, and she came back and she said, Joe really appreciated, you playing for him, and he wanted to know if you wanted to come watch the encore from backstage. And I was like, hell yes, I do. So after she told me the song when Always With You, Always With Me comes on, come to the side hallway and I'll let you in, and you come backstage. By the way, Mountain opened for Joe Satriani that
That's
night.
wicked.
So I got to go, I'm backstage, there's Leslie West is there, Joe Satriani. Come back. After Always With You, Always With Me comes on, go backstage, he finishes the song, comes out, talks to me for a little bit. He's like, thanks for coming back. I'm really glad you're here, blah, 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 blah. And I was just a wreck. I couldn't. I tried to keep it cool, but I did the whole Wayne's World thing. I was like, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. I seriously did that. I was trying to be fucking cool. I wanted to be cool, but I just could not do it. It was a total fanboy, geeked out moment. But that show, I was sitting front row center. Not front row center, front row stage right where in front of his pedal board was. So that night was very important for me in terms of that was the physically closest I'd ever been to seeing and experiencing what I wanted to do with my life. Like, that was as close as I got to the dream and, seeing it. And I got pretty emotional that night. Like, I remember when I got out of there, I had to come down somewhat. And I remember I couldn't go home yet, and I remember going over hang out with my buddy Luke Baker, and I was telling him about the show, and I teared up, and it made me focus even more. And the 3 years, as you talked about earlier, were highly concentrated. I took it to another level after that.
No shit.
And it really made me want to dedicate my life to music. But, I mean, that's one I can think of, but there's a lot of times, like, playing with people, playing with some of my good friends and just creating stuff on the fly. That's what those are really important moments to me. Those are moments that I really remember. And, playing for people, playing for crowds, there's nothing like that when you get a crowd of people and you're all on the same page. Not only locking in with a group of musicians and being on the same page doing shit. That's what it's all about.
Sachi Bonga, were you influenced by old record, tapes, CDs, or digital media? Which ones?
First music I listened to was vinyl and 8-tracks. I remember we had the very first record that I really remember playing. Well, there's two. We had Sesame Street and Cat Stevens' Tea for the Tiller Man. And that is just a phenomenal album. Cat Stevens ended up being another huge influence for me and one of my favorite songwriters of all time. But that album, Tea for the Tiller Man, I remember back when I was a kid, that was the thing to do. You put on a record and you just sit there and listen to it. For all you kids at home, people used to do that. But I remember, I mean, it had the lyrics written down on the back of the record sleeve, and there was just one little tiny picture in the middle of Cat Stevens, and he's kind of just sitting there like this, and he's got some weird looking like medieval style clothes on and this weird bangle on his wrist, and I'd watch that fucking shit for hours, and that was it for me. But yeah, it was that, and then the 8-track I had Supertramp Breakfast in America.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that was like, yeah. And I had an A-Team 8-track as well, which had like these little radio plays of the A-Team. That's what I used to rock, but yeah. Vinyl and 8-tracks, and more so later on cassette tapes. I didn't get into CDs until the mid-90s. Columbia House, everybody started ripping off Columbia House. And just for the record, CDs are the worst fucking format of music ever to exist.
There you go. You heard it from the horse's mouth.
Hee-haw.
I know you and I debated this before we even started this train wreck of a podcast, but who is your favorite guitar player on this planet right now? It can only be one.
Alive or ever to have lived?
Ever.
I hate these fucking who's your favorite, what's your favorite questions.
Well,
I get to enjoy them all, okay? They're all my favorite.
But
if I had to choose one, I was going to be James Marshall Hendrix. Because, to me, and this is the weird part of why he's my favorite, he transcends guitar playing for me. For me, he's just, the guitar just happened to be the vehicle for his voice. And it didn't really sound like guitar playing, what he was doing. It just sounded like expression. So, like, when I remember when I heard that was the first song that I fell in love with was Voodoo Child. And just for the record, when I die, that's the song I want to be played as I'm being lowered into the grave. Is
note to self, if I die before you do, sir.
Okay, that fucking track.
It is a brilliant song.
It's on fire. It's just pure electricity. Like, it just screams, man. That's a wailing, killing track, man. And he had the power to make that guitar scream, make it cry, make it plead with you. Just like he could say whatever he wanted with that thing, but it would sound like a dying animal sometimes. Like, it was just the most visceral, raw sound ever. So yeah, Jimmy.
There you go.
And look how many people that cat inspired too. So yeah, Jimmy, that's my guy. That's my dude. Number one.
How do you handle mistakes during performance?
Well, luckily enough, early on in my playing, I mean, the number one rule I learned from my peers was the show must go on. I mean, you never stop. So, you know,
keep playing.
Keep playing. I mean, one of my favorite musicians, who also transcends his instrument of choice, Victor Lamonte Wooten.
Ooh, Shane's gonna like that one.
Shane's gonna love that one. Everybody should love that one because he's just a phenomenal human being and a phenomenal musician.
Indeed.
But he has a philosophy that there's no such thing as a mistake. And one thing he said was, you're always only a half a note away from the right note.
Oh, that's such a bastard statement, but yet.
But it's true,
so
right?
So spot on, yeah.
It's true. You're always a half step away from the right note. So there are no mistakes in music. I mean, you just roll with it. I mean, that's the cool thing about playing live, too, is that there's a big difference between live playing and studio playing. I mean, live playing is a snapshot in time. It can never come again. It can never be duplicated, right? Like, it is what
Agreed.
it is. I mean, how many times have we sit in the studio and you obsess and obsess and obsess? I obsess and obsess and obsess over having it just right, just perfect. But, I mean, there's been those shows that I've had where I just think I'm getting beat up and just stinking up the joint, and people come up to me and say that is some of the best playing I've ever seen. And you just never know.
This is a good segue into my next question, actually. Do you still get nervous before performance?
Absolutely. But
how do you live with that?
Well, let's not confuse nervous with having some kind of negative connotation. I mean, it's an anticipation. Like, it's a good kind of nervous. I mean, when I know I have it's show night, it's game day, and I have a show that night, and all I want to do is get out there. I don't want to wait. I don't want to be delayed from it. So it's like a caged beast just pacing and waiting to be let go, and taking out a gazelle and taking it down, right? Like, it's a good kind of nervousness, and you got to feed on that when you're playing. Like, it feeds you completely.
How about this? Why don't you ever see baby pigeons?
Baby pigeons?
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen one, sir?
Oh, I can't recall ever seeing a baby pigeon, but
that's my point.
I mean, it's not like some pigeon factory. They're babies. I mean,
where are they?
In their nests.
Have you seen one?
In a nest.
In a nest.
You know what? If I was from New York City, I'm sure I would have seen a baby pigeon in Central Park in some nest. But growing up in Cambridge, Ontario, I can't say I saw many pigeons. No.
Rephrase that. Come on now. Where in Cambridge are you from?
Preston,
there you go.
Cambridge, Ontario. One of the 3 boroughs in Cambridge. Okay.
So I only have 2 more questions for you.
Oh, wow.
Second last question. Tell us about your last great revelation. Whether it's about music, life, relationship, love, work, you name it.
Okay, that's actually a pretty easy question to answer. As you know, and as many of you may know, I moved away out west about 4 years ago. And I gave up a comfortable living doing what I love in music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I went in pursuit of more money, and I gave up what I could say is the happiest 8 years of my life working wise. I wasn't working, I was doing what I loved and making a living from it, and having some really great adventures along the way. And I decided to go out west and chase the fool's gold, as they say. And the revelation that I really had was, earning lots of money at the expense of your family and your friends, and serving your soul, nurturing your soul, is not worth it. And I made the most money I've ever made in my life. I've had the last 3-4 tax returns were the biggest I've ever had in my life. But it's also been some of the most unhappy I've ever been in my life. And I'm not the type of person to compromise myself. I've always been really good at chasing my needs and my inner wants and serving my soul and being really relaxed. And this last 4 years have been the most financially lucrative, but the most detrimental to my well-being and happiness. So the revelation is, money really doesn't bring you any happiness. And to remedy that, I plan on coming back to where my heart is, and that's where my friends and my family are.
And we're all here. I'm pretty sure we're all really happy to hear that right now too. So,
not more than me. I mean,
that is by far the best revelation I've ever heard of doing this podcast for, I don't know, 10, 11 times by now. So that's, well, no, it's nice to hear.
Thank you. It's nice to hear, too, and I can't wait till I actually pull the trigger and make it happen. And then hopefully, not hopefully, definitely, I'll get back to making and playing great music again and jamming with my friends.
And more covers in the closet session.
More covers in the closet session, of course.
Boom. Last question for you, sir.
Okay.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
100% the chicken.
How so? Enlighten us.
Well, I mean, this is an easy one. I mean, where would the egg have come from? Obviously,
Kronos or Vulcan or
the Easter Bunny, maybe? No.
Easter Bunny?
No. Eggs are simply another form of gestation that evolved.
I think it's called.
They evolved from millions of years of evolution. Yeah. Chicken all the way. Chicken. Then the egg.
There you go, folks. You heard it from Mr. Sachi Bonga himself. Thank you so much for joining me in this closet in Waterloo, Ontario. Thanks for Becky letting us use her closet. And big shout out to my dog, Chewy, for not coming to sit on sitting on my guest's foot or bringing toys in. So big shout out to Chewy.
Big shout out to Chewy. I mean, that has to be one of my favorite parts of recording here in the closet. No, I'm going to say that that is my favorite part of coming over here and recording, was coming in and always being greeted at the door by that little fucking fur ball of joy. And then every time while we're playing, he'd always wait for the lulls, too. He had really good etiquette about that. And then he'd just come in and post up right against my leg and look up at me. And it wouldn't matter how frustrated we were working on something, trying to get it right. He'd come in and he'd just break the tension and, again, remind us of what's really important in life.
And he actually even produced and recorded that Chaos song with Courtney.
He does, and we gave him a shout-out on that credit, and right at the beginning with the little intro, and he nailed it.
So there you go. Chewy, this one's for you. Take care, folks. Thanks for watching. Peace. GoPro is rolling. Sound check, or sound sync, I should say. 20 minutes.
That was off beat.
I was not trying to be on beat, sir.
Well, it was off either way.
And this is how we start this fucking thing already. This train wreck of a fucking podcast.
Well, I'm a perfectionist. It's got to be right. You got to hit it right.
A cuckoo, a lulu. All right. 3, 2, 1. One last sync. Is it on time, you bastard?